The courtroom atmosphere was reportedly tense, the kind of silence that makes headlines write themselves. According to reports, Prince Harry appeared visibly strained as the judge delivered remarks that seemed to lean in favor of Associated Newspapers Limited, ANL. Now let's be clear from the start, courtrooms are dramatic by nature, and legal battles involving high-profile figures like Harry and Meghan are always going to attract attention. But what's really fueling the conversation is not just the legal technicalities, it's the broader narrative that has followed this couple for years. Every lawsuit, every public statement, every courtroom appearance becomes another chapter in a story that many critics say they themselves have amplified. And when the judge appears to side, even partially, with the media organization they've accused, it inevitably raises questions about strategy, credibility, and public perception. Reports suggest that the judge's comments were procedural rather than final, yet the reaction online was immediate. Social media lit up with claims that Harry looked unsettled. Body language experts, yes, the internet's favorite analysts, began dissecting every facial expression. But here's the grounded reality: legal proceedings are rarely straightforward wins or losses in a single hearing. Judges often clarify positions, narrow arguments, or dismiss parts of claims without deciding the entire case. If ANL received favorable remarks, that does not automatically mean Harry's case is over. It simply indicates that the legal threshold for certain arguments may not have been met at this stage. That's how civil litigation works. However, critics argue that this is part of a larger pattern. Prince Harry has made media accountability a central theme of his post-royal life. Through interviews, documentaries, and court actions, he has positioned himself as someone challenging what he describes as unethical tabloid practices. But legal systems operate on evidence, not sentiment. And when a judge scrutinizes claims or appears to question their strength, it can look, at least publicly, like a setback. That's where the tension lies. It's not just about this case, it's about the broader mission Harry has taken on. Meghan Markle's name inevitably enters the discussion as well, largely because many of these legal disputes revolve around press coverage of their relationship and family life. Supporters see her as someone unfairly targeted by sections of the British press. Critics, on the other hand, argue that the couple's selective media engagement, speaking openly in some platforms while suing others, creates a contradiction. That criticism intensified after this courtroom development. Commentators questioned whether the couple underestimated the complexity of defamation and privacy law in the UK, which requires very specific proof and standards. Now let's slow this down and look at facts. ANL, the publisher of titles like the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday, has been involved in multiple legal disputes with Harry and Meghan over the years. Some cases have resulted in victories for the couple, including previous rulings in Meghan's favor regarding a private letter. So this narrative that they always lose simply isn't accurate. At the same time, not every claim brought before a court will succeed. Litigation is strategic, and sometimes courts dismiss aspects of cases before trial. That's not scandal, it's procedure. What made this hearing particularly intriguing was the public framing of it as a moment of panic. Did Harry actually panic? There's no official confirmation of that. Court reporters described him as serious and attentive. But serious in court is normal. High-profile cases bring intense scrutiny, and any perceived emotion gets magnified. The word panic is powerful. It drives clicks, fuels speculation, and fits neatly into a dramatic narrative. Yet legal professionals watching the case have pointed out that courtroom exchanges can appear sharper or more decisive than they truly are in context. Still, the optics matter. Harry has publicly criticized the British media establishment. When a judge appears to favor arguments from that very establishment, it creates a symbolic moment. Critics argue it challenges the strength of his campaign. Supporters counter that standing up to major media organizations is never easy and that legal battles often involve setbacks before resolution. Both perspectives can exist at the same time. The broader question is whether this case signals a shift in momentum. If the judge ultimately rules in favor of ANL on key issues, it could set a precedent affecting future claims related to media conduct. That would be significant, not just for Harry but for other public figures considering similar actions. However, if the case proceeds and Harry's legal team adjusts its arguments successfully, the narrative could quickly change again. Legal battles are marathons, not sprints. Another layer to consider is public fatigue. Some observers believe the constant legal and media disputes keep the couple in a cycle of controversy. Every appearance in court revives debates about their departure from royal duties, their interviews, and their criticisms of the monarchy and press. For a couple that has spoken about seeking privacy, remaining at the center of legal media storms can seem paradoxical. Yet from their perspective, challenging press practices may be seen as necessary regardless of headlines. At the end of the day, this reported courtroom moment is not a final verdict, it's a snapshot. The judge's comments, even if leaning toward ANL's position in part, are part of a broader legal process. Prince Harry's reaction, whether tense or composed, doesn't determine the outcome. What it does determine is the next wave of public conversation. And in high-profile legal battles, perception often moves faster than fact. So here's what we actually know. The judge made remarks interpreted as favorable to ANL on certain legal points. The case continues, no final ruling has been issued, and both sides remain engaged in the legal process. Everything else, the panic, the collapse narrative, the triumph claims, is commentary layered on top. As this unfolds, the real story won't be about one tense moment in court. It will be about whether the evidence ultimately meets the legal standards required. Until then, the headlines may be loud, but the final word belongs to the judge's ruling, not the internet's reaction.